What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another video. Please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Also, share this out. It's still a little bit of a dead time here in the NFL offseason, and not a lot of content creators are putting out NFL content, and the content we are. So would appreciate a share out of the video, our roster bubble series, the channel overall. So we appreciate it. And let's dig into the topic of today. So over the past 24 to 48 hours, there's been different rumblings about the SAQUON Barkley negotiations, whether a deal will happen or not. Boomer Esiason said there's going to probably be a deal by the Monday deadline. Diana Rossini said that's not the case. Both sides are stalemate at this moment. There was another one, I think it was like MLF football. It was like one of them pages. Like, well, the Giants offered $26 million over the first 2 years and a $13 million AAV deal for 3 years. And Saquon's like, yeah, that's not true. So there's a lot of rumors flying around. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this is true, that's not true. I'm not going to go through that because I think it's, a waste of time. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, when the 17th comes, we'll see if, there's a deal reached or not. And then obviously whether, he sits out or not, which I think will be a big mistake either way. And I think it hurts both sides. But you have to consider this. And at the end of the day, I will say this as well. I'm not trying to divide people on the sides of, oh, I'm a SAQUON Barkley guy or I'm a Giants guy first. I'm not trying to do that because, hey, listen, we're all Giant fans. We want to see this team succeed. We want to see these two sides come to a resolution and come to a deal overall, whether it's just Barkley signing the franchise tag or it's the Giants signing him long-term and we don't have any of this mess in training camp, preseason, or beyond. But you have to kind of prepare yourself for the worst. If a deal is not done, who is the bigger loser? Is it the New York Giants or is it SAQUON Barkley? Let's evaluate. SAQUON Barkley, right? Going into his 6th season in the NFL. I'm getting old, by the way. Going on age 26, if he hasn't reached that age already. 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time Offensive Rookie of the Year, and was 3rd in voting for Comeback Player of the Year this past year. So this past year, played 16 games, not 17 because the last game obviously was against the Eagles and all that sort of stuff. 1,312 yards, total of 10 touchdowns on the ground, 82 rushing yards per game, 4.4 yards per carry, which is the 3rd highest in his career. But hey, listen, the Giants, let's be fair, relied on him heavily in the first half. If you looked at the percentages and ratios of pass and run plays, the Giants were very, very high in the percentage of run plays in the first half and very low in pass plays. And then when Saquon started gassing out a little bit against the Detroit Lions, the Giants started to throw the ball a little bit more. It didn't get going for a few weeks, and then they found their rhythm. Right as they were facing some of the bad teams, got into the playoffs. He was a big help, meaning Saquon against the Vikings, had the first Giant playoff touchdown in 6 years. The last one was Tavares King. So, there's something to note about that. But also, yeah, he was a part of the culture that pushed the New York Giants to playoffs. So, yeah, it's going to hurt either way for both sides when it comes to, this deal not happening. If it doesn't happen, hopefully it does. But if it doesn't happen, I'm just preparing you for that. So, let's divide it into two sides. Let's divide it into Giants. Let's divide it into Barkley. And then at the end, I'm going to determine who could be the bigger loser if a deal is not struck by Monday. So, let's go into the Giants aspect first. And the main target of the Giants aspect is not the Giants front office, though it's a part of it. It's not the Giants coaching staff. It's the quarterback, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, with SAQUON Barkley to his side, 44 passing touchdowns and 17 interceptions in his career. Now, obviously there are some contradictory stats like the win-loss record with and without SAQUON Barkley, because you have to figure sometimes quarterback win-loss record isn't really accurate because a quarterback could be doing really well and the team's not playing well, Or your quarterback could be mid or Mitchell Trubisky, and they win a couple of games, like, what was it, 2018 Chicago Bears. So the record in terms of with Saquon Barkley, the Giants 15, 22, and 1. That's Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. My mistake. It's not the Giants. Well, I mean, it is the Giants, but Daniel Jones with Saquon Barkley 15, 22, and 1. That's since 2019. And then without 9 and 12. So, obviously the win percentage is higher without, but that doesn't tell the full story. So no one should really jump on either side. So if anyone pulls that out, just make a note, a mental note. Hey, listen, it's not all the win-loss record. It's stats too. And then when Saquon Barkley is out of the equation, Daniel Jones is in there. 16 passing touchdowns, 17 interceptions. The passer rating is higher when Barkley plays at 91.4 and 77.3 when Barkley does not play. So, there's a couple of, instances from this past season where Daniel Jones did get it done without Barkley. Obviously, there was the passing touchdown to Darius Slayton against the Texans. There was the 93-yard drive against the Green Bay Packers when Barkley went out with the injury. So there's a couple instances there. But let's be completely transparent, as we like to say on this channel. Daniel Jones will take a hit if Saquon Barkley decides to sit out or just not play for the Giants at all. And I'll put it to you this way, in terms of potential in this upcoming season. Obviously, the New York Giants acquired a big tight end, a big target, someone that a lot of linebackers are afraid of in Darren Waller. And once again, time to be completely transparent. A lot of corners across the league are not necessarily scared of Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton. A lot of those are speed guys, and they got good hands. But they're not number one wide receivers. And we have yet to see what this offense looks like. Is it going to be more vertical? Is it going to be this, that, and the other thing? The Giants will have to make some adjustments if Barkley isn't there. Because you're either going to have Matt Breida as the one or Eric Gray. And to be fair, that puts more eyes on Daniel Jones. We've talked about it in the past. When Barkley is out, or when Barkley was in, there used to be that whole scenario of the 9-man box. And then when Barkley is out of the game or it's a passing situation, they just lock up the receivers because they don't know how to separate. And Daniel Jones is basically by himself, gets sacked, throws an interception, does something. So my worry with Saquon sitting out is Darren Waller is the only big-time target within the offense. Now, Bellinger obviously as well. I think teams could maybe fear him a little bit. But how many teams in the NFL do you see running through their tight ends anymore? This is not the 1990s, the 80s, the early 2000s. It's not that. It's not the New England Patriots with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. Let's be completely fair here. So I liked the way that Joe Shane this offseason upgraded the wide receiver core. He brought back Darius Slayton, brought in a guy, Paris Campbell, who's got speed and can separate. But also as well, some of those are one-year contracts, and a lot of it is potential. It's not proven, right? Jalen Hyatt, there's still some concerns with the route running. And I'm just being, once again, completely transparent. You have to give both sides. You can't just be a fanboy and say, oh my God, this offense is going to be top 10. I'm not so sure about that. I'm going to be completely fair, with or without Saquon. So that's the Giants aspect, right? Let's talk about the Saquon aspect. He sits out. First thing that comes to your mind as an NFL fan is Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, a few years ago with the Pittsburgh Steelers, we remember, 2018? That whole Steelers locker room just fainted. It fell. AB, Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell sitting out. And what happened? Le'Veon Bell, he actually, I think, took less money to go sign with the New York Jets, because I guess he was done with the Steelers at the time. First year under Adam Gase, not that good. 2020, he gets released mid-season by the Jets. He goes to the Chiefs, doesn't do much of anything. I'm pretty sure he goes to the Bucs the next year, and his career is over. I think he actually said, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, maybe it was Antonio Brown. I'm trying to get the B's right. But he said he's moved on from football. But his correct resume after the Chiefs was the Ravens and then the Bucs in 2021. So, he hasn't had success since leaving Pittsburgh. And the big mistake for him was sitting out, because not only did he cost himself, but he also cost his team. And I'll state my situation at the end, of course, of what I think is a reasonable deal for Barkley and whatnot. But let's take a look at the current running back market. And this has been a whole speculation for years. Do you need a big-time running back in this league to succeed? Do you need to draft a late-round guy and just be good with that? And it all depends on a lot of things. Wide receivers, the type of quarterback you have, the scheme, all these sorts of things. It's not just based off one narrative. Let's take a look at that running back market. Christian McCaffrey is the highest paid right now, about $16 million. Alvin Kamara, $15. $12 million for the following players: Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones at $11. $10 million for Tony Pollard, who I believe got the franchise tag, Josh Jacobs, who got the franchise tag, Saquon Barkley, who got the franchise tag. So 3 guys with the franchise tag, and then the rest on. So most of these guys are getting paid $12 million. And Derrick Henry is still a destruction. He's still a destructional force around the league. We know that. Nick Chubb is still, unbelievable. He's a Pro Bowler almost every season. Joe Mixon's there, but obviously it's not necessarily much is recognized because the Bengals have an elite offense in this league with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and all those different guys, right? But that's the running back market as it looks. Now, as of right now, as it seems, Saquon Barkley wants $16 million. And the Giants only went up, I believe, to 13-14 at the past, what was it? It was the bye week. It was the bye week back in November. And there was reports a few weeks ago, maybe even a few months ago, that once the tag was put on, that deal that the Giants had, 12, 13, maybe even $14 million, they pulled that off the table. Not out of frustration. They said, look, if you're not going to take this deal, we're going to tag you and take this deal off the table. Just out of procedural purposes and negotiating purposes. So it's all about leverage and all these different things. Now, other factors that play into this running back market that we have now. Miles Sanders, right? I think he just came off 1,000 yards with the Eagles. Guess what? He gets $9 to $10 million per year with the Panthers. That's lower than a lot of people expected. Dalvin Cook, right? I think he was getting like 17 mil or, no, not 17 mil. I'm going way out of the box here. He was getting somewhere around $12, $13 million. Which team does he play for now? He doesn't play for a team. So he's either got a high asking price or the value isn't there. Ezekiel Elliott, right? Drafted in 2016 with the 4th pick, released by the Cowboys. It was very clear a couple of years ago they were moving in the direction of Tony Pollard. Where is he now? He's not playing for anybody. Is it pay or is it value? Because both of those things, whether you like it or not, are playing into the Saquon Barkley negotiation charade. And then also let's take a look at this. Running backs drafted in 2023. Just as a relevant point. Now, obviously, you could add Eric Gray to the list because he was drafted by the Giants in the 5th round at Oklahoma. Round 1, pick 8, Bijan Robinson to the Atlanta Falcons. They had Tyler Algier. They had a couple other different guys. Guess what? They still stuck with Bijan Robinson. And it's very rare to see a running back drafted in the 1st round nowadays. I mean, Najee Harris was selected a few years ago. I personally don't agree with Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, who's the next one selected by the Lions, being selected in the 1st round. Now, Gibbs also brought in as well. They have David Montgomery over there. I believe they still have Jamal Williams. I'm not too sure on that. He might be a free agent. And there's a couple, they have like a big running back room over there. And they also like DeAndre Swift, who I believe now is an Eagle. So, Georgia Bulldogs, Philadelphia Bulldogs, whatever. Jack Charbonnet, Seattle Seahawks. They sent Rashad Penny to the Eagles. Obviously, it's via free agency. Charbonnet, they draft him. And he's, with the other guys in that room as well, alongside Kenneth Walker. So they have kind of a duo there. Kendre Miller, TCU, New Orleans Saints. Could be starting over Kamara if Kamara ends up in trouble with all this stuff that happened in Vegas. I don't think this guy's going to be replaced, but nonetheless, Tennessee Titans selected Tyjae Spears, who was one of the more impressive guys in the draft. Miami Dolphins took Devin Achane, Texas A&M. Tank Bigsby goes to Auburn. Tank Bigsby goes to Jacksonville. Israel Abanaconda, one of the guys that I was looking at, goes to the Jets. By the way, he went to high school about 15 minutes away from me. But none the frickin' less goes to the Jets, even though they got Breece Hall, even though they got Michael Carter. So I'm just pulling it out of the box there, guys. It's easier nowadays to get a running back. And I'm not saying, look, any of these guys are going to pan out to be anything that Saquon was like in his first few years in the NFL. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of scenarios to where some of these guys may have more value, and it's easier to replace a running back. I'm not saying Saquon, but to replace a running back nowadays. And the problem with Saquon sitting out is not only would he not be in physical shape, maybe that the team wants, and obviously he's doing stuff on the side. We've seen that with the Giants pictures and the NFL pictures, whatever. But not only is he hurting the team, obviously, but he's hurting himself because the value of running backs is going down like we've never seen before. Guys are getting released. They're not getting picked up by teams. They're just replacing them with younger cats in a passing league. This isn't a rushing league anymore. And either way, the Giants were going to go pass first this season. They were not going to do run first like they did last season. But here comes the determination, and I will say this with the determination. Now, who's going to get hurt more, Saquon Barkley or the New York Giants? If I were to pick, if a deal doesn't get done, and if Saquon sits out, I think Saquon is hurt more. I think in the long term. Now, I think this does bite the Giants a little bit, and I think a little bit is a lot because Saquon is a part of Daniel Jones' success. It does leave Darren Waller as probably the most identifiable. Like, okay, we gotta block this guy out of the offense. It's not just Saquon anymore. Opposing teams are not going to be scared of right off the bat Darius Slayton, Paris Campbell, and Eric Gray, Matt Breida. They're not going to be scared of those guys right off the bat unless you factor in scheming, which Mike Kafka can do, Brian Dable can do, all these different things, whatever. But it's going to leave the eyes on Darren Waller for the first few weeks, and that might stalemate the Giants' offense. And we don't even know how this offensive line is going to look like. Now, in terms of players, you could take your guesses, but performance-wise, you don't know. JMS is a rookie. Mark Lewinsky didn't look good last year. Evan Neal needs to take a step. Who's going to be the starting left guard? So the only certainty is Andrew Thomas. Now, obviously, the side that's on the Giants in terms of, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel with this thing is they could trade Barkley in season, trade deadline, potentially, if this thing does not work out. They could trade him for a couple of picks and get value back, and Barkley goes to another team and plays. But the thing with Barkley is he going to be in football shape going to another team? And we're going to transition to Barkley getting off the Giants here. But the thing that's on the Giants side with the light at the end of the tunnel, other than trading him to a different team, if this scenario were to happen, is the coaches are very good at making adjustments. They made adjustments last year. They're going to make adjustments this year. Now, obviously, it's tougher to do without Saquon Barkley, but I believe in this coaching staff, and I think they can do it. Now, back to Saquon Barkley once again. Sitting out. Obviously, you're getting pieces of $10 million taken away from you every single week starting in week 1. And, obviously, training camp, a lot of players nowadays, they don't really like training camp. It's tough and, competing with guys. We saw a couple of retirements a few years ago, but obviously those were due to the harsh calisthenics that Joe Judge was putting the guys through. Nonetheless, as far as Saquon Barkley goes, in terms of him being the bigger loser in this scenario, the running back market is taking a fall. The Giants effectively could have a replacement for him. They hold all the cards at this point. And I haven't even brought this up. He has a couple of injuries over the course of his career. I'm not saying he's injury prone, but there are some injuries you could tack on. First year, obviously, completely clean. Second year, the ankle sprain. Took him out 3 games. ACL tear, 2020. 2021, the ankle sprain again where he stepped on somebody's foot. Freak injury, yes, I know. But also, you have to take a look in 2022, and you could say, well, he was gassed, this, that, and the other thing. But that production started tanking in the Texans game. Really, honestly, against the Seahawks. I called it. I literally said, look, Saquon's not taking the hole here. He's kind of regressing. A lot of people said, what are you talking about? The Texans game, yeah, he got a lot of carries. He got a touchdown, but they weren't effective carries. It was like, okay, let's play conservative rather than aggressive football. And then they rode him down. And there is a stat, someone has it on Giants Twitter, where Saquon's midseason production between like weeks 10 and 14 is not very good. So do the Giants really want that type of player? Are they missing a lot in those weeks is what I'm saying. I'm not saying they won't miss Saquon Barkley, but it's just something to think about. Injury, I would say production in the middle weeks of the season, the running back market value, all these things are not really on Saquon's side right now. So, I don't know. I mean, as in my opinion, personally, I would pay Saquon up to 14 mil most, because that's kind of the middle. I think the Giants started at 12. Most of the league is paying their running backs at 12 right now. And then Saquon wants 16. Ideally, you meet in the middle. But guess what? That's not the world we live in. The Giants, I think, went to 13. Saquon's still at 16. We'll see what happens by Monday, but I think it's a bigger loss on Saquon's part for the long term. For the Giants, definitely in the short term. But for the long term, I think Saquon is the bigger loser if he sits out. If he sits out, and if he doesn't play for the Giants, of course, I think it will cost him a little bit more long term. But as I said before, this is not a division type video. I want both sides to get it done, but we have to start evaluating if this scenario happens where Saquon sits out and the deal is not done. You got to start kind of, stimulating your brain a little bit. Who's the bigger loser in this situation? Who could be the bigger loser? But anyway, like, comment, subscribe to all the good stuff. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops, video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Got more content coming your way. Giants, Yankees related, all that good stuff. Peace out, guys. See you later, and stay cool.